Well, good morning, everyone. I'm Jan Erickson from Stepping Aside, and welcome to Somewhat Daily Tarot and Rune for the 22nd day of January 2020. So, we're here finally, 22 day and a 22 year, and a one energy for the month. So, new beginnings, cosmic builder, both with the 22 day and the 22 year. So, quite profound. I would hope overnight that the Republicans in the Senate are discovering that their approach to what they're doing is probably not going to work out well for them and shouldn't. So I don't know. Maybe we're going to build something different, those that actually want the rule of law to apply here and normalcy and facts and all of that stuff. We want that to. Or maybe we're one of the 22s, and maybe they're the other 22 trying to build it their own way. The problem is it's not going to be successful. So that's just the way that is, I think. And I don't know. I think that people are just going to have to sit and, watch and decide and all of that. I was trying to find my pendulum here. Will the Senate figure out that they cannot? Let's see. Let's ask the question right. How should I ask it? Will the Senate come to their senses and proceed in a respectful and lawful fashion at all during this? No. Will there be any senators that break with that and vote for a reasonable approach for witnesses and all of that? Will any senators that are Republican break with that? So far, the pendulum's saying no. So I guess we'll have a little more of this till they wake up, or if they do, it just depends on, I guess, maybe what their constituents say to them, and maybe that won't even matter. Sometimes we cross a rubric, with our behavior and our belief system, and maybe it's difficult to come back from it. And that may be where they're at right now. They cannot come back from it. Who they owe or what they've done is so bad that the consequences for going against their constituents may be too great. Problem is when that's the case, they're going against this country, right? So we have a problem, and I think it was evident yesterday, and the problem is deep, and it's with a group of people that, for whatever reason, have forgotten their commitment to the country. So I don't know what the reason is. I suspect it has to do with being compromised and less to do with something that they want. So they're just trying to avoid all that from coming out and hanging on and getting reelected so they can do more damage. Because that's what's going to happen. If they come back, they're going to do more damage. So, and I think that we've come far enough with that. And I think in our 22 year, we're going to see something profound happen, one way or the other. So what will we build? Will it be a structure that's in a foundation that's lasting and sustainable, or will it be what we have now? Because what we have now, what things have turned into now, will not ever be sustainable, not ever. And I've felt that so strongly for so long now. The astrology for today, very similar to yesterday, although the moon's going to be in Capricorn all day, currently in the 10th house. You could take a more public role at work today, but things can be difficult. There's an opposition with the North Node and a conjunct with the South Node. If things are difficult, whatever's happening, just observe it. Don't react to it. It's likely going to be just a part of the energy of the day, and it's going to do this. And so just let it do what it does, and don't really engage with it. If there's a message to be learned, if there's something maybe karmic in it for you, then learn what that message is and, transmute it and apply it to your life, and then let it go. You don't need to continue to look at it every single moment of every day. Learn from it and then let it go. Because at the end of that process, you have a feeling of peace and understanding when you do that. So I highly recommend it. Sun's still in the 11th house in Aquarius, so more unconventional relationships today. Semi-square with Neptune, though, take time out for reflection. There's also a square with Uranus, so there could be some impulsivity again today. And if something's, gelling for you at work, maybe a promotion's coming your way, you kind of want to be careful with that still. Let's see, Mercury, 11th house, and Aquarius again, unique ideas. Friendships are going to foster new thought and ideas. So again, you're going to want to be careful with that today. It depends on where it's going to take you. Is it going to take you into something sustainable, or is it going to take you into more conflict or upset or grief or erraticism or whatever, if that's such a word, erratic behavior, I don't know. Venus is still in the 12th house of Pisces. Again, boundaries could be challenging today. Mars, 9th house Sagittarius, same as yesterday. Adventuresome and all of that, but don't let it impact your work unless it's, taking a new innovative approach or something, which could maybe take you to that new promotion you're wanting. So I don't know. Jupiter is still 10th house in Capricorn. Networking expands, career potential is there again. You seek fulfillment in work and also the approach to it. And I would encourage the senators to hear this, because the idea here, the approach that this is talking about, is one with dignity and honor and integrity. If you live outside of that, if you live in opposition to that, things are not going to go well for you. This is just one of those moments where integrity has to take over and the truth has to rule the day, basically. No matter what that is, and no matter what the outcome is. We can't be, in other words, how we proceed cannot be influenced by a desired outcome. That's not what integrity is about. Integrity is doing the right thing irrespective of that, irrespective of how it might affect you, even if it, causes you some difficulties. It's better to have the integrity and to accept what is than to try to create something out of whole cloth and lie about it and try to get out of responsibility for something you've done. That seems to be what's going on here, and they're just spinning their wheels and they look ridiculous. You wonder, will the attorneys in question have their bar licenses when all is said and done? Because they're lying in front of the Supreme Court Chief Justice. They're lying. Empaths, I'm sure, are going a little nutty right now at all this. Empaths don't deal well with people who lie. You want to scream and jump up and down and say, no, 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 stop that. You're lying. But, we learned long ago when we were young to not do that because, people look at us funny. So, in any event, that's what's happening today anyway in the skies. Oh, did I forget Saturn? I did. Still 11th house Capricorn. Again, use leadership in a positive way today. Careful in your selection of friends and associates. Again, this is a time of reevaluation, and a lot of stuff is still in the fourth quadrant, and so a lot in the 12th house. And so the 11th and 12th really are when there's a lot there, it's really about reevaluating who you're associating with too. And maybe if some of them are newer associations, maybe those associations took you in a direction you didn't want to go, really, ultimately, when you saw what the outcome was. And you're like, oh, maybe I need to rethink this. So still that's happening. So again, time for reflection, time for observation, and time to pay attention. So let's go ahead and get started with the reading today. I'll do the first three cards. If we need a fourth, we'll take one. And if not, we'll move right on into the rune from the Elder Futhark bag. And then we'll close out with doing the four elemental geomancy runes to create the actual one for today. So let's go ahead and take our first three cards. If this is your first time here, welcome. Thank you so much for coming by. Tarot is just one of those things, and runes are one of those things. They affect our entire lives, not just our personal lives. So unfortunately, with everything happening collectively here, I tend to do these readings from the standpoint of both angles, either societal or personal, or both. I mean, sometimes it's clearly one or the other. Most of the time, though, you can read it both ways. So let's go ahead and take our first card. And I'm going to take the 13th one for randomness sake. I was born on the 13th. 13 figures prominently in my life. I talk about that from time to time, but I'm not going to take any more time here today because we got a little long on the astrology. So anyway, let's take our first card and see what we have. Well, we have the Five of Wands. We've been getting wands a lot lately. We've been also getting cups. Last week, I think, was it last week or week before, we had a lot of swords, a lot of air element. But wands is the fire element, and this one is really playful struggle. But it's time to get serious. Five is about change. So, you know, something is about to change here. Either something changed to bring it to this point, or we start out, you know, in a playful banter and it takes a different turn, so you just don't know there. Let's do our second card. The other thing we've been getting a lot of are major cards. Oh, I've been talking about this one. Haven't had it in a couple of weeks. The Four of Wands. This is intentional harmony. Willful in harmony in balance. Four is about structure and foundation. So a greater level of harmony than the two and bringing things into polarity or balance. This is with someone else. Understanding that we have to come together that way with one another, that that's just our natural default state. What we're currently experiencing is not. Well, now we have, so we have two wands and now we have pentacles. We have the Seven of Pentacles. Again, a seven energy, taking stock, letting things come to rest and observing. And that's really what he's doing. This card always reminds me of my husband when he's out in the field, irrigating or whatever. He'll stand there, you know, and he'll have his shovel or whatever. And usually it's his shovel. And he'll, in case he has to dig out a portion of the ditch or something, he'll have his shovel with him. And so he'll have it there and he'll stand and do this. And just look, you know, around at stuff and think, you know. So every time I see this, I think about my husband. So we might need a fourth card. Now, we don't have any major cards in this. We've been getting a lot of them, and a lot of the time we've been getting two. And I've been trying to read this from the standpoint of a focal point, and then the other two things influencing, if at all possible. And I think what I want to do I think that we want the focal point to be the Seven of Pentacles. So let's talk about that first. We see the mountains in the background. We see that he has likely raked up all of his harvests there, or some of it anyway. He's taking a look at how things went as they all settle out. You've got seven pentacles. Six on one side, one on the ground. So he's still, you know, kind of sweeping up his harvest and his money, his income, his future income, or what's going to sustain his family through the season, through the winter. You can look at it that way as well. But it's like he's sitting there thinking about, okay, what have I got? Let's see. So it reflects where I'm putting it. Well, we've got conflict or we've got peace. We can have an honorable foundation. We take stock of everything. You know, he's sitting there, he's remembering it all. And maybe there was a time where some struggle gave way to great change. So the struggle and the strife gives way to a firmer foundation and structure, where we come into mind, body, spirit alignment, within, and then in balanced energy exchange with other people. There's a demarcation line here, as you see. We've talked about that before, where there's one thing and another. So it's like they came together in harmony. You can see both poles, both sides, or all four poles, but two on each side in balance, each individual in balanced polarity with the other. The garlands above are crossing in an X pattern, similar to Gebo, the seventh rune of the Elder Futhark, and balanced energy exchange with others. That's what that means. So again, we're looking at a 4. That's our new structure. As we embark upon our life together, you see some people over here in the background. They're there for the festivities. And the newly married couple, they're holding their bouquets high, but there's only 3. So that to me is indicating mind, body, spirit alignment. The same with the 3 arches on that arched bridge there. The third one is sort of hiding behind one of the poles there. But there's one there. So again, going over the bridge to a new future in alignment, mind, body, spirit in alignment. We'll do one more card here just to, I think that this is a really easy one. You can look at this in terms of pondering the future. You know, he's prepared his path, and he's sitting there thinking about it. You could look at it from 2 different ways. First, there was some change that took place, creative struggle maybe, because the 5 is not really, you know, this is how Congress is supposed to work, okay? Where they argue, and then eventually they come to some kind of an agreement. Somebody gives up something, somebody else gives up something else, and they come to some kind of an agreement. But it's the whole notion of my friend across the aisle, because they are. They haven't been now for some time. So all of that's changed. Now, we can look at getting back to that, you see. And when that happens, perhaps something like this happens as a result. So we can ponder and reflect which direction we want to go with this, because this can, you know, lead to this or not lead to this, right? The 5. The 5 can either lead to the 4 or it doesn't. So right there, you've got a 9 energy with the 4. So what is that? 9 and 4 is 13. Again, that goes to 4. It reduces to 4. So you're talking, did I do that right? Let's see, 5 and 4 is 9. And let's see, 9 and 7, that's not a 4, that's a 7. So that's 16. So a 7 energy. I didn't do it right. I added the 4 instead of the 7. So there's 16. So that's a 7 energy, again, aligning with the center card, the significator. So again, you know, we're going to sit back in observation, which is what they're doing, right? The senators are doing that. But you have one who is guiding this whole thing that's doing it in a way that isn't right. And I need to do my tea here. But he's doing it in a way that isn't correct, right? He's trying to do this in a way that doesn't preserve the integrity of the system, right? And the process. I'm still dealing with the after effects of the cold, so I made a tea here that's nettle and red clover. What did I put it? Nettle, red clover, anise, hyssop, a little bit of stevia, dried stevia for sweetness, chickweed. So the idea is to flush the liver, flush the, you know, get things moving through, you know, diuretically speaking. Chickweed's a diuretic. It may also be a liver alternative. I don't know. I have to look. I don't remember. But the idea is when you're ill to get things flowing. Things have gotten stagnant, so you got to get rid of all that. But in any event, back to the reading. Sorry about that. We've got a 7 energy here with the reading. And, you know, I mean, think the scales. You've got the center point, the 4th point where you're talking structure again, and but you're observing. It's also a point of rest, the 4 is. And so you're observing the structure. You're observing the process. You're just standing there in observation mode. It's really where empaths need to live. It's just live in observation and no reaction. Because the minute you start to react, you latch on and you connect and you engage, whether you know it or not. You are. If you're paying attention to that weird vampiric vibration, then you've engaged with it. So it's time to, sever that connection and let it dissolve and turn your focus somewhere else. But again, it's stepping out of the morass, basically, stepping out of the playtime and just stepping back and watching and not being part of it. You'll learn a whole lot more if you're not, inserting your own perceptions into things. If you just stand back and you watch, you'll learn a whole lot more. If you're not, gabbing and doing all of that as well, you're inserting yourself and you're not watching. And there's so much benefit to just watch. For an empath, it's absolutely required. You have to do that. Otherwise, you get drawn in, and then you don't know whether it's your emotion or their emotion that you're experiencing. But just know, if it's something new that pops up, it's likely not you. It's somebody else that you're picking up on. So let it go. Move back away from it. Go back into that observational stance and refuse to engage with it. Look quickly and then move on, in other words. So let's do one more card. I'm not sure what it's going to tell us, but, well, we had this yesterday, the Nine of Wands. Again, we've been through the battle. We're on the other side of it now. You see that demarcation line again right there. So there's an ending here that's possible. There's an ending that the battle is over, and it's time now to just stand in our own truth and know what we know and stand up for something, instead of what's easy. Do what's hard. There was this company that I knew that their attitude is, we really don't have time for the hard stuff. So I made sure I did. Right? Yeah. You can't shy away from something that is, that can bring an end to something. An end to the chaos, an end to the vitriol, an end to something here. Well, my runes seem to all want to stay in my hand today, 24 of them. Well, now they're going, now they're falling. It's like the minute I start to say that, then suddenly they start reacting. Well, we have Yura. Energy moving. It's an as above, so below rune. It's energy moving through the body. A type of energetic exchange based on the rune Kenaz, forward and reversed. So the light of spirit basically infusing through the situation, and that's what needs to happen today in the Senate trial. The light of spirit needs to infuse into the situation so that truth and honor and integrity take over. But the idea here is balance, okay? You don't see anything, you see an even arrangement there, don't you? One version of Kenaz isn't any bigger than the other. And basically what we're looking at here, I don't even need to draw it. I was going to draw it out, but I don't really need to, do I? Because it's right there. I mean, you see Kenaz both forward and reversed. The greater than and less than sign. And Yura is the 12th rune of the Elder Futhark, and so you're talking a 3 energy. So it's energy that's catalytic and dynamic, as spirit obviously is. So it's just fascinating. We can take a time out and see the effects of our efforts. And that's another interpretation for, observing. I mean, that's basically what he's doing. He's observing the effects of his efforts, or the outcome of its efforts. If you want that to be in a playful struggle, with others, the idea is that the light of truth emerges, okay? And that Yura takes place, where energy is balanced and moving properly. instead of one trying to hang on to whatever truth they want to have and they want to present versus what the real truth is. Because that's what we've got right now. And we need for the restriction and the resistance to end, and for the flow of truth and light from spirit to begin and to begin flowing again. The world can't be upended due to one man and his antics. I mean, that doesn't even make sense. It's better to remove him from the situation. If he cannot be convinced to stop and to learn a new way, and we can be certain that the damage will cease, if we can't be certain of that, then obviously a higher purpose needs to take over. If this is something that's going on in your life, maybe there's been some conflict. And it's time now to look at it from an observational standpoint. Take yourself out of it. Take your perceptions out of it, the emotion out of it, your intellect out of it, because you're going to try and rationalize your position, right? The time now is to let go of the position and to simply look at the facts and the truth of the matter. Because the end can be coming back into harmony with one another in an integrated, balanced, harmonious fashion. Letting the energy of spirit move throughout the entire experience, balancing and creating and shining a light on truth. It might be an uneasy truce for a while, but endings often are, aren't they? Why not? Don't be afraid of it. It's a way forward, you know? You might have to realize a few things, you know, when you stand there looking at the outcome. You're going to do that. But what's going to sustain us? You know, the guy in the farmer here in the Seven of Pentacles, he has something that he's worked hard for. And it's going to sustain him through the winter months and his family. I don't think that the conflict and the lies and the deception, in order to save one person who has done so many wrong things, you know, that are criminal, why would you do that? Why would you save a criminal? You wouldn't, unless you're one yourself. Or you're a wholly confused individual, maybe. I don't know. Let's see what we have here with the geomancy runes. Well, let's see. Oh, we have Fortuna Major. So that's greater fortune. Now, there's my pen. Let's draw that one out so you can see what that looks like. There's there's a Fortuna Major and a Fortuna Minor. There's actually only 8 geomancy runes, but there's 16 because there's the complement of each one. So with Fortuna Major, we're talking about greater fortune. Fortuna Minor, of course, would be lesser fortune. Passive influences on fire and air, and then two active influences on water and earth. Passive is the dual dot, active is a single dot. And these are arranged in the order of fire, air, water, and earth. Each of the, like this is earth, and this one is, this is 2 on one side and 1 on the other. When you throw them down, you just put them in the order of whatever they are. And this is the glyph for earth. So I've coded each one, you know, 1 for each element, and that's how I do it. You can do it, you can grab a handful of peas or beans or lentils or pebbles or whatever, throw them down and count them. If it's an odd number, then that's a single dot. If it's a even number, then it's a dual dot. But in here, that's just messy and I can't see. So that doesn't do us any good, really. I'd have to sit there and count them. And it's like, no, I'm not going to do that. So years ago when I started doing geomancy divinations, I just decided, you know what, I'm going to do it this way. So that's what I've done. But this is Fortuna Major, meaning greater fortune. Here we have some greater fortune to observe. Remember who we are, remember what we have, remember who we are to one another. Here we express that, where we come back into intentional balance with one another after maybe a little bit of conflict. Now, traditionally, though, this card is viewed as playful struggle, where the will is, you know, you've got a little bit of battle of wills there, but it's friendly. That's what sustains our government. You want that inner friction, that inner nathes to guide you and to get you going in the right direction. But what you don't want is for it to destroy the foundation of what we've built together. Again, 22 day, 22 year, cosmic builder. It's the master number. It's the most powerful number in numerology. So this year promises to be something profound, really. We can get started on that with this endeavor that's going on in the Senate chambers. We can bring back the integrity to the situation and allow for witnesses and all of this to happen. That will either happen or it won't. If it doesn't, then we know that the fix is in and that they were never had any intention of doing right by the American people. Now, extrapolate that down to your own personal life. If you are acting without integrity, you have to know inside that that's not going to sustain you going forward. It's not going to sustain you in harmony with other people. If this is happening at work, it could cost you your job. So you got to think about it. You got to think about what's important here. Struggle leading to success. The inner friction to succeed in a way that's with integrity and honor? Or are you going to understand that there's been a battle here, and that in order for things to end, you have to get outside that. You have to step outside whatever that construct has been for you. So if you've been behaving in a way that's deceptive with other people, expect that not to work out. Even if it does short term, you're not going to be happy because it's going to be at the expense of someone else. That's what's happening collectively. If the senators, the Republican senators don't figure this out, then they're going to do what they're going to do at the expense of this country, and then the country will respond in November. It really is that simple. And assuming whoever interfered with the last election doesn't do that again and switch our votes, because I think that when all is said and done, when we get outside of this whole experience and we move on from it, and the research is done over what really happened, there's too many irregularities in that vote. And people have been screaming about it and nobody's paying attention. But there were. But maybe they know that there's nothing they can do right now. They have to wait until it changes hands again. And then when reason comes back, then we can look at it and see what actually happened. But I'm going to tell you, my gut feeling tells me, the empath in me, the intuitive side of me says this was not real, that this was contrived, this was created, and it was done illegally. And that all we've been experiencing here, we can look at it in terms of a benefit, that we learned a thing or two, or we can try to hang on to something that never should have been to begin with. And that's simply not going to be sustainable. When that happens, you're always looking over your shoulder. It's not going to be sustainable. The wolves are going to be at the door, and in this case, the wolves are the wolves of truth, saying, no, we're not going to let you get away with this. You may think you have, but you're not going to get away with it. So that's where you don't want to be with people. You don't want to be on that side of things. So if that's what's going on in your life, take stock of what's really happening. Figure out what's really important to you. Make whatever changes you need to make, no matter how much struggle it causes you, because this is not necessarily about other people. This could be the internal struggle within different portions of your will going, no, I want this, and no, I want that, and no, this is better. It's the ego struggle, right? When spirit's not informing. But then you take a time out and you align. And remember who you are in the broader scheme of things. And you come back into alignment and harmony with other people. Because you know that without that, we got nothing. You know, the Rune is talking about it. That balanced energy change. This is a wonderful, I've used this rune in a garden vine rune. I have them hanging around my garden spots to encourage growth. And that's the whole point of Yura. How are we going to grow? Are we going to grow separately, or are we going to grow together? Separately hasn't been serving us well. We are one energy when we're not focused into form. The bodies are just an illusion. Part of our collective consciousness is slowed down enough to create these bodies. But the rest of it is still freewheeling it out there in the ether with one another as one, right? Why wouldn't we do that here? You can have the inner not-these, you can have the inner conflict, the inner friction to get things done and to try new things. We can do that together. Have the dialogue be one of playful struggle instead of one of deception, and trying to keep the other people from doing the right thing. Because for some reason, we want the wrong thing to happen. Well, we better figure out what that is. Otherwise, our greater fortune is going to be affected. Because the greater fortune isn't just simply about money, is it? The greater fortune is the understanding that we're collectively one, and that we go forward together in unity and in honor and integrity and in justice and in fairness. So I think this is both a collective and an individual reading. I hope you're not having to cope with this kind of stuff on your own. It's happening in your personal life. It's not fun. But realization, it often isn't, and sometimes we have to realize some things about ourselves or about maybe the situation that we're in that maybe we haven't wanted to look at. But in order to release the restrictions that are keeping us from moving forward together, we have to do that. We have to step away from it, assume the observer position, and just look and take a real good, take stock of what's gone on and of where we need to be going. And we need to, if we've been participating in the end that's been keeping it in its restricted fashion, then we need to drop resistance and let that pass and try to see things in a different light so that we can all move forward together. That way, Fortuna Major is ours. There's our value. It's in the unity together. So that's our greater fortune. So anyhow, thank you so much for stopping by. I will see you tomorrow. Again, check out the blog, Stepping Aside, over at I'mSteppingAside.com. Sign up for the newsletter. Sign up for a Patreon tier if you like. There's also that underneath the links to all of that underneath the video. And come back tomorrow and we'll chat again and see, where the energies are going, and assess them with against what's happening collectively in our government, in our country, and then how it might be impacting us. Sometimes things seem to be in line here. One thing happens Monday, Tuesday builds on it, Wednesday builds on that, Thursday builds on the rest. So maybe that's going to happen here, and we can maybe get a little more information if this is a personal reading for you and you're coping with having to take stock of things. Maybe tomorrow will show you where you're going to go with that. So in any event, hope I'll see you tomorrow, and click subscribe here. I'd love you to do that, and be good to yourself, be good to one another, and blessed be.